reviewing part 1, and after about 200 responses, we got quite a category of different things that could be the problem. We've got everything from fuel injection, coils was a big one, EGR, intakes, coolant temperature sensor, fuel pressure regulator, tune-ups was another big one, compression, catalytic converter, module, fuel pump, oxygen sensor, mass airflow, even an evap problem, vacuum leaks, and an alternator. And you know, all of those could potentially be a problem here. But none of this is enough evidence to be able to actually find the problem. Nor is there enough evidence yet to throw any parts at this thing. What we really need is information. So now we're going to look at the data stream. Now it's time to gather some data. So we're going to look at the scanner. Remember, the check engine light is on, and now and then it blinks. So in the scanner, we're going to look at codes. We're going to display our codes. Engine codes. Here's what we've got. PO131, the O2 signal, bank 1, sensor 1 is low. 171, bank 1 is lean. PO300, misfire detected. Now 300 means random. It's not identifying one particular cylinder, it's just overall random. And PO455, the evap system has a large leak. So we've gathered some data. We know we've got an oxygen sensor that is reading low. We know that one bank of the engine is lean. And we've got a misfire, a random misfire. Now if you notice on here, the evap system has a large leak. That code was actually on there before. When she brought the vehicle on, she said that had been there and had been there a long time. Of course, the check engine light was already on, so when it came on this time, she didn't know that it was indicating another problem. So for right now, we're going to ignore the evap because that's really not going to make it run bad. We're going to solve that problem first. Now, just seeing these codes, we actually need to get some data and see what it's telling us. So let's go back to the scanner. Now I'm going to customize this because there's a lot more there than I really think I need to look at. I'm going to clear everything. I know that I want to look at the oxygen sensor. Bank 1 was our problem, so I'm going to select that. I want to look at short-term fuel trim, long-term fuel trim. I want to look at mass airflow volts. I also want to look at the coolant sensor. Now I want to look at just those. Now, I don't have to look at everything. What I want to do is notice here, the oxygen sensor on bank 1 millivolts is reading 0 to 4. Short term is 27. You can see the map voltage varying. Now that's probably varying because the engine's running bad. We don't have even vacuum there. Let's take a little closer look. There's the oxygen sensor and short-term fuel trim. Now this is the oxygen sensor. For those of you that aren't quite as used to using lab scopes, you might look at that and say, well, that oxygen sensor looks like it's switching okay. Well, remember, this is going to be plotted. So this oxygen sensor is showing 0 to 4 millivolts. Halfway point on an oxygen sensor is 500 millivolts. Now the reason that this is actually showing 0 to 4 and looks like it's switching because it should be showing 0 to 1 volt with 500 here in the middle. But what it's actually doing, instead of being low, it's actually broadened it back up. Now if we got this to where it would be normally reading, you'd have 0 here and you'd have 1 volt up here with 500 millivolts in the middle. So don't be deceived just by the physical appearance. Also look at your data. We're only reading a maximum of 4 millivolts. Now our short-term fuel trim is reading 27. Short-term fuel trim should be hovering somewhere around 0. Now if you look at the long-term and the short-term, both of these are very high. So they are indicating that the computer is trying to add lots and lots of fuel. If you look at the oxygen sensor, it is very, very lean. So the computer is saying that the one bank of the engine is very lean. Therefore, it's trying to add fuel. Now let's go back out of here and let's look at misfire data. Now if you look at our misfire data, here's our current cylinder 1, 3, and 5. There's the values. And here's the history, or the historical count. You can see they're significantly higher. Now if we go over to cylinders 2, 4, and 6, you can see the current and the historical values. So you can see why the computer is saying a PO300, because every cylinder is misfiring. And they're fairly high numbers, but these are very high. So we've taken a road trip and actually confirmed the complaint, and it's real. We've actually hooked up to the scanner and looked at all the data. Now, what do you think the problem is? Okay, let's be interactive. Go ahead and make some comments as to what you think the problems could be. The next thing we'll do is actually gather evidence.